Okay, she's back. She actually never left. She's been hibernating in the house garage with me looking at it every single day, waiting to get back at it. But if you are new to the channel or you've subscribed within the last 2 years and you've never actually seen this thing, 2 years, man, time flies. This is my 1964 C10 sitting on a 2015 bus frame built by Freightliner. It's got a dual plenum twin turbo Duramax Allison drivetrain in it that we're going to add some nitrous to, and I can't wait to get back on it. Now, if you're wondering why did I stop working on this, well, my Silverado was my daily. And it finally came to the point, she's an old girl with a lot of miles on it where it wasn't safe to go down the road anymore. And I should have just fixed it, but instead completely rebuilt it. And of course that takes a long time. And we were building the F350. Now, I needed a daily, and as you heard by my ensemble of additions to this build, it's probably not the most reliable daily, so we wanted to finish the F350 first. Got it going down the road. The shifting issue is a communication between the engine and transmission because we used one computer that was not matched with the Allison. I think we got that figured out, waiting on a couple parts. So we're back on the C10. Now, I know I'm 2 years late on this project, but I'm actually 6 months early because we're actually hoping to take this thing on power tour. We're building another vehicle out in California. We kind of want to drive the two together, and we'll just hop right back into where we left off on this thing. If you don't know what this thing is, there's a pile of videos on the main page on the YouTube channel. All of them are put together. I think there's 15 videos or something like that on this out already, so you can check those out. Either way, we're going to start where we left off. Here we go. We're gonna make the mounts for the exhaust and the cab mount so we can set the cab in place for the last time.
Then I got the I Did It steering column in there.
Make sure I don't hit the exhaust. Oh man, look at that. Yeah, we got quite a bit to do with the cab off again. So we got our transmission mount, so we can weld the cab mount solid, and then we're gonna get on to putting the airlift on there with the sensors. Okay, so onto the drive shaft. I think we're gonna go with a two-piece on this one. Okay, so where we left off was we installed the Hydro Boost and the mount on the inside. This was actually a feature build on Summit's online show during COVID. So we did kind of put the truck together to make it look like a truck, but it is only SEMA ready. So we did have Vince weld a little pipe in the exhaust so that it clears my steering. We got lots of room there now. The front cab mounts are done. The bracket and everything for the I Did It steering column's all done inside. I gotta do the back cab mounts, making sure that we do not hit my steering there, and then keep putting the truck together. Now, you guys did mention that the air ride system was not very reliable the way it is because I just have the bags teed together. This is a tow rig, but it does come out. There's only 4 bolts in the back and the thing is in a turret, so we can slide the whole thing out. But I am gonna build a stinger with vents that slides into the frame on either side so we can actually pick up a car. If we pick up a car and we have the airbags the way they set up, it'll be a nightmare to drive. So because of the airbag situation, when you roll, the air squeezes out of one and goes in the other, and it introduces body roll, and we don't want any of that. So we did buy a airlift proper air system to it, so we're hoping to install that and then get the drive shaft done, take care of our transmission, hook transmission up to the engine. By that I mean the torque converter. So let's get into it. First off, I gotta take some of it apart again because we might as well get at everything that we need to get at. We'll probably pull the exhaust pipes back off again, pull the floor off, and make it so we can work on it again. Here we go. super simple to install. So I think I have all the parts for it. It's pretty straightforward because it used to have sensors on it. So we'll just modify these to make them fit. I think the best plan of attack is to finish the cab mount, do that first, and then we'll carry on doing the air ride system. So basically I need to tack the rear cab mount in place, put this in the right spot, and then take the cab off. And once the cab's off again, then we can get lots of work done. Nice and easy. I have the air tank still. I thought that I grabbed the one from the for the Silverado, but this is the one that came off of this truck. That is the handy part, is because it already had the air ride. This tank was already mounted nice and neat. So I need to make one other brace for it potentially, but cab mount, cab off, here we go. Okay, so this is the bracket. This will go up against the frame. The cab itself comes down on an angle, so we'll weld it to that brace, and then once I'll weld that nut to it wherever we deem fit, and then when the cab is in the air, we'll build the side plates for it so it's nice and secure. But yeah, rubber there, and access for a socket right there. I think the exhaust doesn't get in the way of this one. So we'll weld that in place, do the other side, and bam, I'll see you in like 4 hours. Okay, so the rear cab mounts are done. Now we can still shim the cab, put shims under it to tilt it forward and back one way or another, but they're welded tight enough that they're not gonna fall off. So now we can pull the cab off and we can weld everything solid properly once we got the room in there. So we're gonna pull the seats back out again so we don't get them dirty, and then we're gonna lift the cab up. Then before I weld the box on for my body lines, I gotta make sure that the front fits. So I'm kind of tossed as to whether I should make the whole front tilt up so we can see the engine, or if I just leave the hood alone and let it pop like it used to. So we'll worry about that later. But before I weld the box on the body lines, I gotta get the front lined up so that we can, if we gotta tilt it one way or another, we can do that. But we'll take the cab off, and then we're gonna get the air ride system working so we can have the proper ride height, and that will determine where ride height is, where I can actually turn and steer, and then we can put the front clip on. Then, here we go. Okay, the cab is on the stand. That went nice and easy. I could have used my lift, but they were all being used. So forklift comes in handy. Just as handy as this little Princess Auto cart. I've had all the different cabs on here. I've had all the beds and boxes on there. The F350 Silverado. The table's really, really handy. So now we can get back at the frame, and as nice as the truck is with everything, with the cab and the box and everything on it, I love the skeleton of it as well. Everything, this project has been going really, really well. So I really enjoy working on this one. You can see Vince's notch in the exhaust for the steering, which is right there. And yeah, we got a few things to button up, quite a bit to do actually, with the cab off again. So we got our transmission mount, so we can start figuring out our angles, and we can weld the cab mount solid, and then we're gonna get on to welding or putting the airlift on there with the sensors and start running some wiring. Here we go. Okay, so we've got rid of the wooden blocks holding up the cab because now we've got our cab mounts welded nicely in place. I want to get rid of these wooden blocks before I get too far. So we got a nice transmission mount here, nice polyurethane heavy transmission mount. Now I could use that jack to hold up the transmission, or I could use that simple jack to hold the transmission up in the perfect place, but I got a crane. And I kind of want to use the crane. The issue is that the cylinder is no good. We busted a couple things. It's gonna leak. So I got a new cylinder from Princess Auto. We'll grab that, but I need to have a support for it. So it was just a bracket, and those brackets were missing, so I have to make new brackets to go around it. But basically, I need a big heavy bar that fits in there, and the cylinder attaches to. So luckily enough for me, I've got this axle out of a Dodge, and this axle is the right width for in here. Look at that, isn't that perfect? So we'll cut that to size, and then we'll mount the cylinder on there, and then we can swing the crane around and pick up our own transmission so we can do the transmission mount. That's how my brain works. It's like, let's get on the airlift. But there's lots of other stuff you could do too. I don't think I have ADD, but possibly. Now there's the cylinder. I had to pick my battles because I found a heavy enough one, a big enough one, the right size. It's the wrong color. All the Princess Auto's cylinders are red, so we'll have to paint it a little blue and maybe put a little bit of rust on there. I don't know, we'll worry about that later. They've got a whole bunch of different configurations for eyes. So this is the proper eye size for this pin. Unfortunately, this one is wrong. So I don't know if I should drill this out and then cut it in half and then weld it on either side so it's got full support. I don't think I will do that. I'll probably just cut it off and then weld it right to the bar. There's nothing wrong with that. It should work just fine. One thing you gotta remember is that this gets hot, so take these out and put the rod to the top. The only seal is right here and at the bottom of the piston. So right now the piston's at the bottom, so if you start welding, you have a good chance of burning this piston, but if you pop it out to the edge, it will get warm to about here, hot to the touch, but it won't melt the rubber. So we'll cut the bar to length, we'll get rid of the old cylinder, and then we'll put this in place. Here we go. So I don't think I wrecked my blade, but she's definitely not cutting, which is good because it's nice and heavy. Then we will cut it with a grinder. Like, I thought I'd do a nice straight cut. Anyway, grinder it is. There we go. That's some good steel there. Done some work. It's a little bit crooked, so if I install it the other way, it'll bend it straight again. That'll be perfect. A really neat design because I got this support bar here, so even if the bar flexes, I can only flex maybe 1/8 of an inch, if that, and then it'll just bump up against that piece there. So smart cookies back there. Back then, 1960. So we'll figure out some brackets and then cut this off and weld it up. Okay, so it can go up a touch more, but basically I'm in the back of the truck now. So if you go straight down, there's right where my tap and die set is, basically where the cable's gonna fall. So if I had to pick something up, say an engine or something, and put it in the back, we can do that and swing it because it'll still go up a touch more. And I'm not touching here, so that's good. And then we'll weld a brace along the bottom there. So I'm pretty happy with where that is. I'm gonna take it back off, weld it solid, and we're rocking and rolling. Here we go. Okay, so when I had the cylinder all the way extended, I could go higher. It's just that this is now hitting this bar. So if I notch this slightly, then that will fix that. I can go up basically straight up and down. But for now, because I already cut my angle iron for that, I can pick up my transmission. It's a bit of an angle, but should be all right. And then using my own crane. Took a lot to get this unseized. I'm gonna do it. Let's go do it. Nice. All right, hopefully that lines up, and then we're good. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, whew. It's turned slightly. It fits. I can put the transmission mount in, and then we'll get right onto the drive shaft. So this will be the complete collapsed, like all the way retracted drive shaft, and then we'll air up the suspension, and then we'll make sure that we've got enough to make it go up. There we go. All right, we got our transmission mount in. Put some air in the bags, got the truck up, and while there's nothing in the way, I figure might as well service the transmission before I forget. We put Shell Rotella engine oil in, and we're gonna put some S6 Spirax shell oil in the transmission so that we're good to do some burnouts. Although I think we might have to put an heat locker in because I don't want to do the one wheel peel. We're gonna trust that Shell's gonna be able to do it if we wanted to. And hopefully there's no pieces in the pan. So we got the internal filter. I think I poked a hole in the external one. So I replaced that one already. And then we'll throw some oil in there, and that's one more thing off the checklist. There we go. I can't remember now, because I see some runs on the oil pan for the paint, but they're upside down. So, did I change this one already? There's no oil in it. No, I already did this. I just didn't put oil in it. Okay, well, we'll clean the pan again. It's been too long. Anyway, we're gonna put oil in it so that when we do fire it up, it's not going to destroy a bunch of clutches, because oil is cheaper than a new transmission. Here we go. So we don't know anything about this engine or transmission. This is one of the only ones in the fleet that both the engine and transmission we didn't rebuild. And that's because the guy we got the engine off of said he drove it home and it drove fine. So we are kind of experimenting with the dual plenum intake and that. And I figure if we're gonna rebuild it, then we might as well rebuild it once we blow it up. So we'll see if the transmission holds up. If it doesn't, we'll call Excalibur and we'll get some upgraded bits for it. I don't really intend to just roast the tires and stuff, but it's still a fun truck. Now I'd love to fire it up and have the wheels spinning, same way as I did with the F350, but the fact that I dropped the pan already and I didn't remember that makes me think that I should go over the entire engine and make sure that everything is on par there. I also stole the PDRL sensor off the side of this 1000 because I couldn't find it off the F350, so it's coming. I said I didn't steal any parts off of this thing. I did steal that just so we could drive the F350 down the road. So I think next video we'll be working on the cab, finishing the cab off. We'll probably paint the firewall, start doing some sound deadening and heat underneath the cab, because once I put the cab back on, that is the last time that I think that cab needs to come off. So with the exhaust coming right up along the floorboards, the muffler underneath the seat, and the stacks behind your ear, we really do want to make sure that we insulate it as best as we can. I don't have room for an AC compressor on this one with our dual plenum intake. That sits right here, but I did find an electric AC compressor, in a car outside. So I'm gonna try and put AC in it yet. Again, that's an afterthought. Let's get it on the road first. But in the meantime, at least I know the transmission's done. So check the oil level, top it up, and then we'll fire it up and then we'll check it again once it's been running. But at least there's oil in the transmission. One last thing off the list. Here we go. Okay, so on to the drive shaft. I think we're gonna go with a 2-piece on this one. Every other project we've done, we've gone on to a 1-piece, but I need a spot for a slip yoke as my suspension goes up and down. So these are the leftover pieces from the original truck. They've been outside for a while, so I gotta clean them up. But the theory of a 2-piece is basically the same as a 1-piece. If you've got your 3 degrees up and 3 degrees down on your output shaft on your transmission and your diff, they cancel each other out. So as one U-joint's doing one thing, the opposite U-joint is doing the other. That way you don't get any vibrations. So what we can do with our 2-piece is if you take the front piece and make it 0, so just straight across, then you just want your 3 degrees on your front and back. So we have to cut and paste a little bit of this together. I think basically we want 40-60 split, 40 on the front and 60% of the drive shaft in your back piece. And that actually ends up pretty close to this mount here. So what we'll do is put the hanger bearing on the front shaft off of this somewhere, and then we'll have the slip yoke behind it. So this is probably, we don't have to do much to this one, where it ends up. And then I think what I'm gonna do is take this yoke out of this one and cut it into this one, because this is just not quite long enough to get me to that point. So we'll throw it on the lathe, we'll cut some welds, we'll pop some stuff out, and then start putting the drive shaft in. Critical thing is you want your degrees to be proper at ride height, and we can play with that a little bit. We can adjust our diff a little bit on the back with our 4-link. We can change the drive or the transmission a little bit, not too much, because everything else is already welded. And then we want to be able to have it all the way collapse with the suspension down, and we want enough of the yoke left when the suspension is up that it doesn't wobble. It'll be fine. Here we go. Okay, so this is my slip joint, and I just put that on the lathe and clean that off so I can shove that inside another pipe. Now, I'm gonna put my hanger bearing right here with basically this plate. So this is gonna stick like this right on there. I got this little plate. I'm gonna notch this out and weld to the C channel, so top and bottom, and then I'll drill 2 more holes just because that's where that is. Then I'm going to take the back shaft, and so I can, once I have that, I can put my slip yoke on all the way in and measure my drive shaft, and I can weld that one. I can't balance it, but I can weld that one together, so the back half will be done. The front half, however, this yoke is smaller. So I think what I'm gonna do is weld this into a pipe, or maybe even not weld it at all, just put it in somewhere, and then bring it to the drive shaft shop, get the back shaft balanced, and then the front one, I'm gonna take this yoke with me, get them to put the proper yoke in the other pipe, and then balance those together, and then I can have it back, and then I don't need a U-joint with different size cups on it. So now I know what you're thinking, why are you using the jack? You just literally got the crane working. Well, unfortunately, it's one setting and that was lined up for there. So I know I'm using the jack, but that did get me thinking. Originally, I was going to use the power steering pump. That's the way Andy's tow truck is set up for the Stinger. But I think I'm going to run to Princess Auto and grab a separate hydraulic power pack, because I might be able to, yeah, I was gonna say maybe 2, one for the cab on the transport truck and one for this thing. So it'll be a completely separate unit then. I don't need to run lines to all the way to the back and have it open center flowing through there all the time. That might be a lot of work for the power steering pump anyway. So then when we do take this unit out, and again, just those 4 bolts and this whole thing slides out of a turret, I can take that off and the battery pack off and maybe put that on the Silverado too. I don't know, but yeah, that's for later. Let's keep going on the drive shaft, and then we're rocking. Right now, I am at about 5 degrees on there, so I'm just gonna keep that 5 degrees going, and then we'll see where we are once we're at ride height. Here we go. Okay, so we got the angle proper on that one, the height pretty close, and then I cut the end of the yoke out of the one that I cut up on the front there. So then this one, this end will slide into that one, and then we'll chop it off wherever and weld it onto that one. Then I will take my other tube and just pop it on this one and leave it nice and long. Take the yoke with me, take a measurement from exactly here to here, minus a 3/8 of an inch, because I can always shim this that way to bring that closer. Get a U-joint and a coupler or whatever it's called from the drive shaft shop. They can balance the shaft that I'm going to make, and weld in that end and balance this one, and also put in the slider on the 4-wheel drive shaft on the F350. Look at that, bam! That's actually a really good day's work. I'm really happy with that. So I am going to call it a day. I will see you tomorrow. Okay, so with the suspension all the way up, it doesn't even really change the length that much. Must be kind of in the middle. So even though my collar goes way past the spline section, we'll make it so that all the way extended, the splines are right on the end there. So that's 37¼ to my coupler inside the yoke. So we'll measure from here to 37¼ cut that pipe, weld it in, and the back one is almost there. Okay, there it is. Lining up the eyes, the straightest thing I've got is my lathe. So I just put my ears on the track and make sure that it doesn't wiggle. And then we'll weld her up. We'll test fit it first, make sure that it fits, and then we'll weld her up. And then one drive shaft done. Well, minus balance and paint and new U-joints and cleaning up the insides of this, but it's done. Okay, so there she is. We got the front, we got the back drive shaft in place. We've got lots of room on our slip yoke. I've got my hanger bearing on a bracket here. I'm gonna put a piece of angle iron, big angle, to support this. I'm gonna notch these holes this way or in the bracket so I can drop it down, and I'm gonna notch the holes this way in case they don't get my yoke fit perfectly. Now I gave them some extra because they'll probably cut it off to here to slip the U-joint in, or the yoke part in there, but I don't know how long theirs is. And I'm gonna send them this yoke as well because this is a smaller U-joint than the ones at the back. It'd be nice if everything was matched, otherwise they can just fit the yoke to fit the smaller U-joints in there. So I didn't weld any of the ends yet because the drive shaft shop has their own jig to do a really nice weld. If something's not straight or crooked or is a little crooked or off, they can fix that. Or if they don't like my yokes, they can put their own in. I'm just trying to save a buck because the 2-piece drive shaft is not cheap. Probably looking at between $800 and $1,500. So trying to save some money this way. You could probably weld it and not worry too much about vibrations and stuff. Probably wouldn't feel a whole lot in this truck because it's a pretty heavy truck, but we're trying to eliminate as many issues as we can because we didn't make our own frame, and it is kind of a wonky setup. So by making sure that the drive shaft is fine, at least we're not going to take out the transmission, and if there is vibrations, then it's something in the alignment or something else. So I do want to get that done. The drive shaft shop is about an hour away, so there and back is about 3 hours for me. It takes a good chunk of my day. I'm going to drop this off. Probably won't be done in this video because it's actually freezing rain right now, so I can't really drive there today, and it probably won't be done in time, but I have to go there for the slip yoke in the F350 anyway. So we're going to keep carrying on with our drive line. We're going to service the transmission, and we're also going to put the air ride system on there because I need to know my ride height. I can't really know my ride height for sure until the cab and box are back on it again because we've got some clearance issues. So we got to make sure that we get the proper height, but we'll run all the airlines and figure out placement and everything when everything's nice and accessible. So here we go. Okay, the air system. Mount the tank. I had to watch a previous video to see where that was actually set up, and it was right here, but I don't know why I took the tank off. That's curious, but I didn't take it. It might have been just to paint it. Maybe the last thing I did was paint it. I'm not sure, but I thought I stole some parts off of this for the S350, but I did not. I can bolt that right back on again, and then we can hook our tank back up again. I imagine that I did look at the video. It's on this side of the truck, and the compressors are on that side, hidden nicely away. As for my power pack, I might have room to put it behind the compressors, but then they get a lot of crap from the road on there. So not that this is a daily driver or I'm going to be towing vehicles out of the ditch in the middle of winter, but we'll worry about the power pack later. Anyway, those are not winter tires. They're too wide for winter tires. But look how good they look. And on those rims too, yeah. Oh, I will bring the hubcaps in a bit as much as I possibly can, especially the front, but that's very, very last. The axle sticks out quite a bit, but I do want to bring those hubcaps in, at least so that they're flush with the edge of the tire. I think I can do that, and then especially in the front there. But that's later. Focus, air tank, air ride system. Here we go. Okay, so I got a pile more stuff done, but I need your guys' help. As you know, this is a very unique one-off build. I love having something that you cannot buy. And we put a dual plenum intake off of an LS onto the LB7. Now, no issues with that other than I need to split my MAF sensor. The engine needs to know how much air is coming in, and that kind of controls how much fuel goes in it. So the only other option is, from what I understand, if you unplug your MAF, it'll always go kind of full fuel. So I don't want to roll coal all the time. Once in a while, just pulling up a hill with a little bit puff coming out of the stacks, that's fine. But I do want to have it running the way it's supposed to run. The issue is that the normal engine has one MAF sensor, and I need to divide that in half because it is a true dual intake. So if you guys know how to do it, or if somebody else has done it, we checked and we talked to the companies that did it for the LS3s and the LS7s. A lot of them have the twin turbo, and those will not talk with our computer. They sent us to another company. We'll put that down below real quick. And they basically, I thought it was the perfect setup. Took two sensors, turn it into a box that you can kind of control, and then put it into one, but they wouldn't sell it to us either. So if you guys know the proper solution, or you guys know how to do that, definitely hit us up at DEBOSSgarage@gmail.com, and we got to get that figured out before we take this thing down the road. Like, it'll run down the road, I just want to do it proper. Other than that, next video, we got a lot of really good stuff coming up on this as well. I pushed hard on this and I had to put it off to the side to get a daily going. It is really the only way that I can like sleep. As I get so involved into a project, I kind of have to put it off to the side for a bit, or I get stumped on something. So we have multiple projects going on at the same time. It's good for me if I get pissed off at something, I can shift my focus and go on to something else. And it also keeps everybody kind of entertained. If you don't like one project, then we don't turn off a whole bunch of viewers when we just focus on one project. And as you guys know, it takes a long time. We got thousands of hours into each one of these builds. So thanks for watching. Thanks for being patient, guys. I really do love this truck. Of all the trucks that I've built, this one has gone together the smoothest. Everything seems to kind of work. So hopefully that trend keeps going and nothing major happens or blows up or whatever. But if it does, we'll fix it, because nobody else is going to do it. Because if you're not filthy, you're not rich. Get out there and work on it.